Hello and welcome back to an episode of Bridging the Badge. I'm your host, Lazaro Paulos. Today, our topic is going to be over the Real-Time Crime Center, something that is new and unique to both the PD and the city. So my special guests today are Lieutenant Bradley and Ms. Jocelyn Apodaca, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you guys for being here with us today and going over this fairly new thing that's very unfamiliar with.
Of course. Thank you for having us.
Hopefully you guys can address some concerns of the citizens and also the PD as well.
And that's what we're here to do.
So, on the topic of the average citizen, Real-Time Crime Center kind of sounds like something out of like a sci-fi movie. You know, I think of screens, I think of satellite imaging, I think of all sorts of crazy stuff. Can you walk us through what actually happens at the Real-Time Crime Center?
So you're not wrong with all the screens that we do have. We have a wall full of monitors and we have our own computer screens with us on our desks, and we're able to monitor other cameras across the city that are placed by the officers and administration. But we also help officers by flying the drone as a first responder, or the DFR program, so that we can assist with how they respond to calls and making sure that everybody is safe.
Awesome. So I know Chief Story has talked about moving away from the reactive model of policing and moving more towards a proactive model. Can you provide a concrete example of how the RTCC, the Real-Time Crime Center, helps officers while they're on scene?
So yeah, basically, when we think about proactive and we think about reactive policing, it tends to bring up like a lot of really aggressive imagery. It's not necessarily what we're talking about when we mean moving to a proactive response. Generally speaking, when an officer is responding to that call for service, the best information they're going to have was what they got from that 911 caller. So that 911 caller calls Central Dispatch, they get the best information they can, try to keep the caller on the line to keep current information, but that never happens or doesn't always happen. And then they try to relay that to the officer. And while the officer's en route, that's all he has to go off of. When we're trying to get proactive, what we mean is the Real-Time Crime Center is now shifting. They are doing research on locations. They're doing research on individuals. They're checking previous calls for service. They're using the drone as a first responder to get into the area of these types of calls so that they can give that officer a more encompassing idea of what they're getting to when they get on scene, so that they're able to make a better decision based off the information that they know to be current, not information that may be false from a caller or exaggerated or just even misseen.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And coming from the patrol side, I can see how that would be a great tool to have, especially when you're prior to getting to that call, have more or less of an idea of what you're going to deal with. So one of the most futuristic aspects of the Real-Time Crime Center is the ability to deploy drones, as you had mentioned, Ms. Apodaca. Are there scenarios in which the drones arrive prior to the location before the patrol unit? And if so, I think you kind of touched this already, but what is the goal of the drone as a first responder?
Yeah, so actually on Christmas Eve, we were working and we received a call about a subject. He maybe had a gun, possibly threatened someone with it, but we were able to get there first and we were able to locate him, and he was already blocks away from the original call. So when we told them his updated location, they were able to secure the scene and find him safely without any other incidents or bringing the public in.
Nice, nicely done.
I think a really good way to think about drone as a first responder, it sounds scary because it's a drone. It's an unmanned vehicle, all of these things, but it is very much more closely related to how police have used helicopters since the late 40s. I think NYPD started that program. It became mainstream in the 60s and the 70s that all major police departments have a helicopter. We're utilizing something very similar to that, just at a fraction of the cost for the city.
Okay. So on the topic of drone use, I know people hear the word drone and automatically it's like Big Brother's watching me, you know, and like privacy, like is my privacy at stake here? What is something that you can address as citizens, like reference their concern about this? Like what can you tell them, like when it comes to being overwatched and what can you explain?
So a couple of things to keep in mind is as police officers, our constitutional duty is to protect the citizens' constitutional rights. That's something we take very seriously. So we don't just fly a drone around willy-nilly to see what's happening in the city or go try to surveil people. That's not at all what the intention is. When we're launching a drone from the police department, it is attached to a call for service. There is information We have accountability. I think at the town hall that's coming up here very shortly, they will be showing a link, or should be trying to show a link. We're trying to get the website open so that the citizens can see it. But the goal of that website is any citizen will be able to go to it and look at the flight logs for the drone. What was this drone flying for? Where did it fly? And what was the call type that it flew for? So that we are trying to be as transparent as we can be with the community, to say this is what this resource is being used for.
Okay. I appreciate that clarification, because I know going on the social media sites, your community watch pages, you see a lot of that. You see, hey, PD has a drone here, PD has a drone there, and there's a lot of concerns, especially with information sharing as well. And on the topic of drones and privacy and citizens, I know there's been a lot of talk and a lot of concern in reference to our LPRs, our license plate readers. Is there something can you explain to them how exactly we utilize those?
So I can. I have a little slide here that kind of shows the ALPRs, and it shows a couple of things on it. So first and foremost, right now in Las Cruces, we have 45 ALPRs.
Oh, okay.
We've lifted a little bit. There's a picture of the ALPR, and then below it is actually an image of what you see, or what we see from an ALPR. It's a police car, so that we're not putting anybody's vehicle out. Okay. But effectively, to understand it, it's what an ALPR does and what it doesn't do. An ALPR does not just throw surveillance. We don't pull up the camera and just watch it. It's at a fixed intersection. It doesn't capture the driver. It doesn't tell us anything about the person that's driving it. There's no way to even see the driver.
Okay.
What it does is it uses its ability to read the license plate or vehicle description to give us an idea of where a vehicle may have been at a certain point. Along with that, it's not used for traffic enforcement. We're not running speed traps through there. We're not checking registrations or insurance. None of that is anything we care about. Along with the way that those ALPRs work is we have a system in place that we audit the searches, and we require certain things for those searches. So the biggest issue, or the biggest thing we do, is we require that any search through our ALPR system is immediately paired with a police incident number. You can't just search a camera because you want to search a camera. You have to have an incident number. You have to give that reason for the search. You have to tell what type of crime you're investigating. And all of that is then audited to ensure we have compliance. We also limit how we share access with these cameras to other law enforcement agencies. For instance, we limit geographically how far out you can be and request sharing or searching of our camera database. Along with that, we also do not share with federal partners, and we do not allow searches within our camera database for searches based on investigations for reproductive rights or immigration.
Is there any success stories that you could share in reference to those and them being utilized?
Of course. I mean, so in 2025 alone, our LPRs, they hit on over 2,000 stolen vehicles, over 1,000 stolen plates. I think there were almost 300 sex offenders that were tagged through our ALPRs, 86 missing persons, 436 protection orders, and 31 suspected terrorists.
Oh, wow.
Were all triggered through ALPR hits on license plates. But those are kind of those high-level views. Bringing it in 2022 we had a road rage incident. We had our ALPRs. Effectively, individuals were on a bicycle. He was riding his bicycle. There were another group of people inside of a vehicle. They end up getting into an argument over sharing the road. And during this road rage, the bicyclist actually gets shot.
Oh, wow.
We were able to use the ALPRs that we had in place to go back and find that vehicle based on just the description that we had and identify who those individuals were.
So not so much the license plate, but the actual description?
The physical description of the vehicle, which was a very good description.
Okay.
We were able to use that physical description and search the ALPRs just for vehicles with that physical description in that area in that time frame. And as it turned out, there was only one. We were able to go through that, get a license plate, then we were able to figure out who these individuals were and go interview them. It's very important to state here that just because this vehicle is on an ALPR, that's not probable cause to go arrest them.
Okay.
That was an investigative lead that we used, and when we spoke to them, it turned out that they admitted that they were the individuals involved.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We had another time where a teenage boy drove himself to the hospital after being carjacked, or attempted to be carjacked. He was shot in the chest with a rifle, and we thought he was possibly going to die. We went back through, and he was able to give us a vehicle description, and based on the time and the area he was in, we were able to shrink down the network we searched specifically to that area, specifically to that time frame, and we were able to find that there was only one vehicle that matched that description. We found out later that that vehicle was stolen. We continued trying to locate it. When that vehicle was located, we apprehended, it fled from law enforcement, but it was eventually stopped. We located suspects, and the rifle used to shoot this child was in the back of the car.
Wow.
Just recently, last year, some of my detectives were working a serial commercial burglary. This individual was targeting very specific stores and burglarizing them. However, based on the days that he was active and the areas he was going, we were able to go back through using ALPRs to start getting some vehicles of interest. Then we started doing actual police surveillance on those vehicles, and we're able to identify not only a suspect that was involved in these, but it was a multi-jurisdictional case including multiple burglaries in Texas.
Wow. So those are success stories if I've ever heard them.
And going off of that, if I may, there was one time where we were able to find a missing woman before she was actually reported as missing. We received the call at dispatch, and we were able to get the notes. We were able to use an ALPR, found her plate, and basically monitored around the city. And while we were able to get the drone to that area, notify the officers in that district, and they were able to find her before she was actually reported as missing.
Okay.
And they made sure that she was okay.
That's amazing. It's like, I'm glad to hear that it's working out for everybody involved. So my next question for you, Miss Apodaca, there's been times that I've been out in the field and then I hear a beep, some kind of chime, and I look at my camera and it's purple and it's like a live view's going on. I'm assuming that is you guys. That's Raven, right?
Yes, it is going to be us. We
Okay.
can view your body camera as it's live, so we see what you're seeing while you're in the field. And most of the time when we're doing that, we also have a drone overhead so that we can give you all the information that you need, and we can also speak to you through those cameras. So when you hear the little voice and then we see everybody turning to see that one person, it's really funny to see because you just have a line full of people looking at the chest of one man waiting for the next information to come out, and it's really interesting.
I know the first time it happened to me, I wasn't even sure what was going on. I was like, what is going on? Did I press a button? I'm like, hello, and I thought it was my sergeant, so I'm talking to him like, hey, Sarge, could you help here? And then I put it back on, and
And then you
We're
hear
back
a
at it.
woman's voice, and you're just like, oh.
that is not my sergeant.
Yes.
Awesome. So then, you can talk. So let me ask you a question. So if I'm talking to somebody and this guy is obviously concealing his identity, how are you, when you're watching my camera, how are you going to assist me on confirming his identity?
Well, first and foremost, we always want to make sure that you're at a safe distance away from the suspect or person that you're trying to identify in case they do have a history of being aggressive toward law enforcement or have a history of carrying any weapons. We don't want to put you in any danger that you may already be in without advising them or giving them the heads up.
Okay.
So if we do have that information, we can also go to the radios and tell Central Dispatch, I have this information for this officer, but he's too close to that person. When you get a chance, please let him know.
Oh, okay.
I think it's important to realize or to keep in mind, we in RTCC, there is no facial recognition. We're not doing anything like that. So if they're going to be pulling some of this information, they're looking at known aliases or who we believe, the same way that you or I would do it in the field. They're doing that, but they're doing it behind in a console where they can put their full attention to trying to figure out who this person that's concealing on you may be, so that you can focus on this individual who, if he's concealing, is probably for a reason.
Okay.
And you can focus on your safety while they're assisting and trying to figure out and help you solve that problem.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm glad somebody's doing it, because at the time, you're in the heat of the moment. That's the last thing you're worried about. You just, especially if there's a crime involved, or you want to figure out who this person is, and you can,
Yes, exactly. And we know that they're always busy at dispatch too, so if we can give them assistance in any way, making sure that everybody else is prepared as well, we're more than willing to help and do that.
Awesome. In the future, were homeowners or businesses with cameras, can they opt to, to help us solve a crime? Are they able to allow access for the Real-Time Crime Center to utilize their videos, their cameras?
So yes and no, and in two different ways. So businesses will be able to go to our community page, and what they will be able to do is They will be able to register that they're cameras, and if they want to share those cameras with the operators in RTCC, they'll be able to do such. They'll have the means to do that.
Okay.
As far as citizens go, we don't want to be in the business of watching citizens' personal cameras that are outside their residence. That's not even remotely an area we want to tread down. There's Fourth Amendment. There's things that we need to consider and think about. So what we're opting for them is an ability to register their camera. Basically what they do is say, hey, I live at this address. I have cameras. This is my contact information, whether it be a phone number, an email, whatever it is. If you have an incident, reach out to me and I'll see if I can share those with you and just send you that
okay.
video.
Okay. That makes sense. So, since becoming operational in the late 2025, do you have specific success stories, perhaps recovering missing person, maybe a swift arrest, or anything that occurred that RTC was, I guess, assisted in?
Yeah, actually, one of our first days of being operational, we were able to respond to a call where there was a possible prowler or break-in in the area. We were able to locate this person who was going into a backyard, and he slipped into a shed, but moments after that, a couple came out to their backyard to tend to their plants, and they had no idea that he was feet away.
Oh,
So we were able to tell those officers, he's in this yard, he's in this back shed, but there are a couple of people out there, so we were able to get them away safely and make sure that they did respond to the correct address and it didn't involve anybody else and nobody was injured.
wow. So rather than the officers walking around the neighborhoods and buildings on willy-nilly, like they directly told where to go.
Yes.
Man, that's amazing. That is amazing. Okay. Anything else you'd like to add in reference to the Real-Time Crime Center? So before you answer that question, is there, when you're talking to the officers, how do they reference you guys on the radio?
We responded, they refer to us as Raven.
Raven.
That it will be our call sign for the radio.
Okay, very interesting. So I know we call you Real-Time Crime Center, but would you also be like, are you also referenced as the Raven unit?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that you're aware of. Okay, I just had to ask that question.
If they call us that behind our doors, so be it.
Gotcha,
But
gotcha.
no, RTCC, Raven, interchangeable, doesn't matter to us.
Gotcha. And sir?
So to go back to your question, I think we've done a lot of press. There's been a lot of people that have seen it, but I think one of the most important things with RTCC is what it is actually doing and how it is improving the safety of officers. Using even Ms. Apodaca's example, when I was a patrol officer, when we were on patrol together, the way that we would handle a call like that is you'd go to the backyard and you just open that door and hope that the person that's in there complies, or even not even know if there's a person in there. But the officers never even had to do that because they knew where he was. They knocked on the outside of the door and said, hey, we know you're inside. Come out and surrender. And it completely changed the dynamic of what could have been a difficult encounter. And it makes it so much safer both for our officers, but more importantly for our community. And I think that's a very important thing that we need to remember. We have had, through the use of our ALPRs, we have solved crimes ranging from bank robberies in other jurisdictions to homicides. With our DFR, we have been able to get officers on scenes, for instance, for shootings, where they were able to direct those officers to where these victims were so that life-saving measures could be immediately taken. And those officers had a better idea of what they were getting into while they were en route.
So based on that example you're giving, the way I see it, it's like you said, safety. Safety is paramount. Because I know at the end of the day, I know officers tell each other, hey, we're going to go home. We're going to go home. We're going to make it safer, get back to our families. And that, I feel like that's exactly what Raven is doing. They're providing that tool for that officer to get home safely. And not just the officer, but everyone around. Maybe the neighbors that weren't aware of the people in their shed. Mm-hmm. It's just another safety mechanism.
And it's safety not only for the officers, it's also safety for the citizens, safety for the suspects, because it allows us to understand what we're getting to immediately and make the best decision. So just in that example, there was no reason to run into that shed because we knew where that person was. We had him on a drone. We were able to just basically knock on the door and open it, whereas if we had just opened that door to go clear the shed like we normally would have, there's no telling what could have happened. But we're able to create that kind of time and distance that's needed in de-escalating people with real time.
Great. Well, like I said, this has been a wealth of knowledge, and I appreciate both you guys coming in and sharing this. And for everybody tuning in, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode of Bridging the Badge. Good night.